Hey guys, it's another episode of the Believe in Padres Prospects podcast on the Believe Podcast Network.
San Diego's #1 sports podcast network.
Big show, kind of, I guess. Bigger day for baseball because it's finally, it's episode 47, and this is the second day of the draft, the final day of the draft, and it just finished a couple hours ago. And we finally have stuff to talk about that's baseball related, that's new, that has nothing to do with the owners and the players arguing about money. So it's a great day for baseball.
Isn't that wild? Last day of the draft, the second day.
Yeah. And shout out to our boy Matty V, who I love seeing Matty V on TV. I've always loved him.
Santa Maria.
But he looked very sad just doing this for 5 hours today. I don't think that's a good job to just announce draft picks every 2 minutes. Like, he doesn't get to rest. He doesn't get to do anything. He has to just get up on TV and just read a teleprompter the entire day. It kind of sucks.
Carl Ravitch is pretty good at it, though.
He wasn't at the podium. The podium job is different.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying.
You weren't watching.
I only watched up until the Padres' first pick on ESPN. Then I didn't watch anything else. Yeah,
so Manfred does the announcements for the first round, and he's terrible at it. But the second day, they usually have what do they call it? Like, what's the assistant commissioner called? Is that it? The assistant commissioner, the number 2 guy.
Assistant 2. Commissioner.
Oh, is that an Office reference?
Oh, yeah.
I got that one. They didn't have him doing it this year, whoever that is, but they had Matty Vasgersian doing it. And I wouldn't mind hosting the show because you have more people talking and you get to sit and you're you're not on camera the whole time. Matty, I think that's not a great job. I don't think he's volunteering for that next year. Anyway.
Do you think he went pee or he pulled a Mel Kiper and didn't go pee?
Oh, he's got time to pee, I'm sure. He probably has 3, 4, 5 minutes, probably closer to 5 minutes. He can squeeze a pee in there. If he has to take a number 2, unless he's like...
Or you think he just throws a Depends on and just sits there, you know?
No, I don't think he throws a Depends on. It's a big industry. If you're looking for stock, like Depends shooting up the board. Anyway. Today's show, we're going to talk about the draft, me and Wade, and then we've got a guest coming on later. But we're going to do a little bit of talk about what's going on with the season right now, just quickly, briefly discussing how close we are to having a potential season. 69-game season? How come that hasn't been discussed yet? Why haven't they talked about that? They're talking about every other length of the season. They've been dancing around 69. Let's make everyone happy and just make it a 69-game season.
Trevor Bauer would immediately agree to that.
He's the first one in line to play if it's a 69-game season. Talk about the draft. We did a recap of our favorite picks. There's only 5 picks to talk about. So the guys that we really care about are probably the first 3 picks. And then even in a normal draft, once you get past the first couple rounds, it's guys that are much bigger wild cards. The draft is already
guessing at that point.
They're all guesses, but especially in baseball.
For the first pick. That ASU guy is
Torkelson is not a guess. That's the can't miss of the draft. But other than that
loser Pete Alonso.
Oh, he's gonna smoke Pete Alonso. Pete Alonso
wishes he was Torkelson.
What?
Pete Alonso wishes he was Torkelson.
You could say that. Yeah, I was gonna try to go out on a limb here and say Pete Alonso is one of the most overrated players in baseball already, just because of where he plays, and he's power only and plays for he doesn't really do anything other than hit home runs.
The next Jeter?
No, he's not going to be the next Jeter. He'll never win a championship with the Mets. Not that we can talk because the Padres have never won a championship. But no, I'm not a Pete Alonso fan at all. For obvious reasons. But yeah, so we're going to recap our favorite picks of the draft. And then we're going to bring in Chris Welsh after me and Wade talk. Welsh is our fantasy prospect guy. He does a really good job covering the Arizona League, which is the really, really young guys, the rookie league guys. He does his own podcast called Prospect One, and he runs a website, inthisleague.com. So he's our prospect guy from a fantasy perspective, which kind of covers both angles, I think. If you're a good fantasy player, you're most likely a good real life player. There's a very small window where guys are good fantasy but not good real life. You'd have to be really bad defensively for that to happen. And in the National League, that's a lot harder to do. We don't have, although with the DH this year, if the DH becomes a permanent thing, you never know. But in the past, that hasn't been a problem for National League guys so much.
Friend Mill.
Yeah, R.I.P. We could use him this year. I would make. He'd probably be my starting right fielder if we had known the DH was going to come.
I mean, not with his taxi squad.
No, absolutely. Yeah, he'd be my starting. He'd be my opening day right fielder.
Really?
Yeah. Why not? Who else? Franchi, Grisham. Grisham's probably going to play more center field. Will Myers. Like, there's not a lot of. Taylor Trammell hasn't done anything.
I mean, you know who I'm going to say. Taylor. It's my boy.
I just said that.
I know. That's why.
Fine.
You're giving me options.
So anyway, before we get to Chris Welsh, she's going to take up the beef of the show. Wade, you got an ad for us?
While you're waiting this out at home, you can still have some fun betting with our partner, betonline.ag. Nice voice crack. No NBA, NHL, or MLB, but don't worry. BetOnline still has hundreds of games, events, and sports to wager on. NASCAR is back with no Confederate flags. Madden and NBA 2K simulators, UFC, Fight Island, online casino with poker and blackjack. And be sure to check out The Final Dance with roundtable interviews from ex-Chicago Bulls. Should I read this part?
Yeah.
Like, it's 5 weeks old.
The Final Dance is no. You think the Last Dance is 5 weeks old? The Final Dance is other stuff. Are they still doing the Final Dance? Skip it. Executive decision. Skip it.
There's still fun to be had, so go to betonline.ag and use the promo code MyPod100 to receive your welcome bonus on your first deposit. Again, that's betonline.ag and use promo code MyPod100. BetOnline, your online wagering solution.
How funny was the guy, the NASCAR driver who retired because he was mad that they banned the Confederate flag, and everyone was like, who are you? No one even knows who you are. You've never won a race. He's never done anything in NASCAR, and he's going to die on this hill, like with the Confederate flag, apparently. And he's become the biggest joke to die on. He's become the biggest joke in sports. It's or maybe he's just trolling us all, and this is the way to get his name out there.
Yeah, I mean, no one knew who he was before. NASCAR even tweeted back, like, or maybe that was fake, but they were like, we had to Google you. We don't even know who you are.
That's an amazing comeback from NASCAR. Didn't know you were a racer, bro.
And he's in like, I didn't even know they had like tiers, but he's in like the third tier. So he doesn't even get to race on like the big race days.
No wonder. Oh, they have tiers. That's interesting. So kind of like soccer where they have you can go up and down in divisions and stuff.
Yeah. I had no idea NASCAR had that, but found that out today because of this guy.
I've always thought that would work well here for basketball, especially because basketball teams are so small that I think we could easily have another 30 smaller market teams competing. And then like the top two get to go up every year and make it interesting. I think the NBA could do that.
Yeah, but then there's no superstars at the bottom of the league.
How do you know?
I mean,
they'd have to totally redo how the draft works and stuff. But I think there's enough basketball talent. I mean, you only have 5 guys playing at a time. So like, I think there's enough talent to fill.
Is there enough talent? Like the East teams they are below 500 and get in the playoffs. I don't know that there's enough talent.
There's enough talent.
Just March Madness every month.
What?
Skip.
We lost track of what we were talking about. So anyway, let's talk about the season. So MLB and the Players Union seems to be getting really close to a deal to start a season. And Manfred put his foot down, which I didn't think was a great idea, because if you force the players to play when they're not happy with the arrangement, we're looking at like a possible strike the following year. So I wasn't happy that Manfred came out and said, we're guaranteed. I mean, a lot of people were happy. Yeah, we're getting baseball this year, but if the players are pissed, this could do harm to them long term. So that concerned me a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, when we're going to get all these no names, like in what the Scabs in like 94, you know?
Well, they were talking about maybe playing with AAA guys.
But don't you think that the minor league union would get together and be like, no, we support our major league brethren? I
don't know. What if they offered the minor league guys a lot of money?
If I'm a minor league guy, I'm saying, hell yeah, let's go.
Yeah, you're a 26-year-old who really has no chance to ever make it at this point, but you can get called up and make $5 million.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be that much money, but
No, I'm a little extreme, but maybe like $1 million.
yeah.
That's and it's his only chance to play in the majors.
Right.
Or
And
like
you're
he's
getting on
28,
TV.
29.
No one else is watching anything else, so you're on TV every night.
It's not the product that the fans want. I don't think anybody wants that, but I'd watch it.
I think the fans just want anything at this point.
They do. So it looks like they're getting closer to like an 80-ish, 90, between 80 and 90 game season. I'd be happy if it was a 69 game season.
I'm gonna have a take here, and it will be a 50 game season.
Well, that's going to be the Manfred forced season, if anything. That's going to be the 50 gamer.
That's where I think it's going.
That's too bad. And like the speed, it's going to be incredible because the Padres, we talked about this before, but the Padres have a real chance to do damage. Like all the teams do. There's a few at the bottom who are really punting on the season, like 5 or 6 teams. But the Padres are one of the teams that could actually get in. And if you get in, like anything can happen. It's baseball.
It's such a streaky sport. Like you get hot 2 weeks and then you're like in first place with this little games.
Yeah, I think I'd be okay with it as long as we didn't get a strike the next year. But I'm hopeful that things, the negotiations, seem to have gotten less volatile as time has gone on. They were real dicks to each other when the thing started. They weren't like the owners would send out a deal and the players would laugh at it and then not even counter. And then the players would send a deal a few weeks later and the owners wouldn't even counter. And now it seems like we're actually getting somewhere, something that they should have been doing from the start, not in middle of June. But I think we're looking closer to like an 85-ish game season. And I think that'd be plenty to make it like an official, it would feel like a real year. It'd be really fast, but if they can do 80 games, about half a real season, I would have no problem in my personal record book, to steal a line from Stugatz, making this like a real World Series winner. Not like the NBA. I think the NBA has kind of already lost their credibility with the season because of the stop down, and they're going to do this weird thing with the playoffs. It's not a real season anymore. I don't think they should have a finals. But if MLB can make this work with 80 games, I think that would be a legitimate season. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, in this, they're still doing normal divisions, right? You're still
unclear, but they've talked about a million different arrangements for the divisions. But I think with an 80 game season, you could do things more streamlined. You've got the DH, and then I think you could do stuff where you have a balanced schedule between the National League and the American League. You could balance the schedule completely with less games. It'd be easier to do.
Yeah.
And then more playoff teams. As I drink some water, more playoff teams, obviously too. So I think they're talking about 7 playoff teams. So
why an odd number?
I don't know. You get that first team a bye. I don't know. That's what they talked about.
Like, why not just make it 8 and make it pretty even?
Because if there was 8 per league, it's more than half the teams making the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, all I really want is Mudcat and Dan back on the airwaves.
They do Social Hour, which I honestly don't watch because it's just really, I don't know. They can't be as spicy on Social Hour. And when there's no baseball to actually talk about, I need some spiciness, not the general fluff, which is what they kind of do on radio and on Padres Social Hour stuff.
It's just like Dan talking about him not catching fish.
I don't know. I haven't watched it, so I honestly don't know what they talk about.
I only know that from his Twitter.
Okay. He's a big fisherman person.
Out in Coronado at his house.
I've never gotten into fishing.
I feel like it's something I'd love, but I've never done it.
Seems like a lot of work. That's the problem.
I feel like it's not that much work, which is why I love it.
If we had a poll question, this would be a poll question. If you like golf, do you automatically like fishing, or would you, and you don't know it yet? Are those two things symbiotic?
I would say no, but we can ask the audience.
Because golf is another thing that takes all day to do. You usually get up really early to do it. You're with a couple buddies drinking. A lot of similarities between fishing and golf. Although one's on sea and one's on land. That's the big one. That's different.
I mean, sea only if you're on the coast. There's a lot of, rivers, lakes.
Water. Okay, I said sea, but you're on liquid. Unless you're ice fishing.
Or fly fishing.
Well, you're standing in water still.
Oh, I don't know. Don't know anything about fly fishing.
You can fish from the shore, I guess, or a pier. See, this is why we need actual. We don't know anything about fishing.
Yeah.
But anyway, we should look into that fishing. I think if you like golf, you would like fishing because they're both really slow, tedious things to do while you drink. You're mostly there to drink.
Yeah. Just hang out in the sun.
Let's talk about the draft. So the draft finished today. The Padres got their guy who they were linked to all pre-draft, I guess. All the months leading up to the draft, it seemed like they were on either Zach Veen or Robert Hassel, the third. Throwing the third in there. I like it. I like the third at the end of the name for some reason. If as the draft got closer, it seemed like they were more and more tightly tied to Robert Hassel, and that's who they ended up getting. There were some guys available because of some drama at the top of the draft with pick number 2. Your boy Heston Kjerstad going number 2 overall really shook things up, and we thought there was a chance that the Padres might end up with someone else, someone they didn't expect to have on the board. Zach Veen was on the board. We didn't think he was going to be there, and then Robert Hassel, another Tennessee guy, Ryan Weathers, also from Tennessee, former first-round draft pick.
Former Little League World Series player.
Hassel, yeah, they love showing that video. They
also showed Monet Davis. Had to get her back in there.
I should have made a bet pre-show whether you would mention Monet Davis. You mention Monet Davis whenever you get the chance.
I mean, seemed like a pretty good pick. The only thing that scares me is like the last Little League World Series player they picked was Sean Burroughs.
Don't say that.
Getting a little flashbacks.
You just invoked Sean Burroughs. Save that for Prospect of the Year 1998, which is coming in about 3 weeks probably. No, not 3 weeks, but maybe 20 weeks. We're way behind on Prospect of the Year. So Robert Hassel, it seemed like they liked Hassel over Veen the whole time, and we didn't know it. I think a lot of other industry people preferred Veen, and we're going to talk to Chris Welsh about who he likes. But they're really similar players. Hassel, more hit over power. Veen, more power over hit. And I think when you're talking about high school outfielders, long, lean guys like this, he's listed at 6'2", 195. I'll take the under on the 195 because he looks thin. As a former 6'2" thin guy in high school, I can tell you that guy's not 195. I think taking the guy that's hit over power at this stage is better. It seems like everyone really likes his mechanics. His swing is
he does
the
have
same.
A nice, short, compact swing.
Every time he swings the bat, it's the same. And they were saying that from his days in Little League all the way up through through high school, that he didn't change his swing at all. And there's a little hitch at the top maybe, but no one seems to care because he hits the ball so well. And you gain power as you mature. He's 18 years old. So why not take the guy who knows how to hit better, and then he can add power as he gets bigger and older, stronger, gets into a minor league weight room, starts working with Padres coaches at spring training. That stuff's easier to add than the natural hit tool, which it seems like he has. So the more I hear about Robert Hassel, lefty guy, bats, throws lefty, really sweet looking left-handed swing, something the Padres haven't drafted in a while. I can't think of, this type of player with this kind of upside that the Padres, from an offensive standpoint, they've drafted pitchers with really high upside. Mackenzie Gore was the last.
I was hearing some Christian Yelich.
Yelich, kind of a late bloomer. I don't know if a casual baseball fan remembers Yelich. He was always a really big guy, kind of Hassel looking ish, which is why I see the comparisons. But people thought Yelich was going to be winning batting titles when he came up, and he's still good. He hits the crap out of the ball, but he's become like a Ted Williams masher, the high average and the high power. And that wasn't really, people didn't think that was going to be a part of his game, or they hoped it would be as he filled out, but he was always just a singles doubles guy. And then he left Miami and exploded. And maybe Robert Hassel becomes a late bloomer like that. Maybe he gets to the majors as a hit first guy and the power comes later, like Yelich. That'd be incredible. Yelich is an MVP. So that's what you can expect, or that we can hope for from Hassel. But I would expect maybe I wouldn't raise my expectations that high for this version of Yelich. I would be very, very happy with the 25-year-old version of Yelich, who was the 20 homer, perennial 300 average guy that plays a good outfield. That'd be great.
Yeah. And when people are complaining like, oh, it should have been Veen, it's like, you don't know. These kids are so similar at 18 years old. Like,
even the guys at like Baseball America and MLB.com who do this all year, like maybe you had Veen ahead of him, but you can't trash the Hassel pick like you really know. Even those guys don't know.
They're like such similar players. They're 18 years old. Like, maybe one pans out, maybe one doesn't. You don't know at this age. It's not like, oh my God, that was the worst pick ever. They should have taken Veen. Like,
I don't think anyone's really saying that, to be fair. I think you're straw manning a little bit.
I mean,
but I see your point.
Content,
someone. Thanks for the content. I do think there is someone out there that is doing that. The casual fan, like maybe the versions of you and me from high school, where you're like, what the fuck are they doing? Veen was right there.
Veen's been my boy all year after I read that one article.
Terrible pick. Yeah, that would have been us at 18. So I do get that. But at the same time, they're so close. And if you're like the Red Sox who went way off the board, or if you're like the Orioles who took Kjerstad at number 2 overall when everyone was mocking him between like 10 and 15, then I think you from Amarillo, you always try to make it fancier than it is. You have no Texan in you. That's a problem.
I throw in the Spanish yellow,
the soft A. You throw the double L in there, the Y sound. Where was I going? Oh, I was saying, no one really knows. So basically, you should, if Hassel and Veen are close for you, just trust Preller, knows what he's doing. All he does, the guy is a freak. All he does is study talent, like a high school international league talent. I still have questions about whether, I was thinking about this on the way over. Preller hasn't shown the ability to pick major league guys yet at the major league level. And I mean that through like trades and through free agent signings. He doesn't have a good track record of picking up major league talent. That's a problem.
Yeah, he's good at we assume that he's good at finding these like kids, but
so far so good. I mean, it's the best system in baseball. But
yet to be seen at the major league level.
That too, yeah. They haven't come up to the majors yet and done anything. But I also mean, like, if he starts trading some prospects, so like Xavier Edwards to Tampa Bay, if he starts trading these guys who were all highly regarded for major league talent, he hasn't shown the ability to pick major league talent that's good yet. You think about 2015, the disaster that was. We were all really excited about it, but then it was a shit show. And then guys he's tried to trade for and hasn't succeeded. So I always think about Yasmani Tomas and Pablo Sandoval, guys that would have gutted this team if they did sign them. And then the guys he actually has succeeded, like Eric Hosmer is one of the worst signings in Padre history, unless Hosmer, who is admitted, I've heard a bunch of reports that he's admitted to his problems hitting the ball into the ground. He has really good exit velocity. He has power. If he starts hitting the ball in the air, he could turn things around and be a 25 homer, 30 homer guy. But I gotta see it.
Guy, though. Yeah.
Gotta see it. Yeah, his base running's phenomenal. I gotta see it first. So until Hosmer does that, I'll be first in line to say I love you, Eric Hosmer, if he has a good season. But so far, he hasn't given me a reason to do that. So I'm going to continue to say it's been one of the worst signings in Padres history. I think that's fair. Is that fair?
I'm trying to think back. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty bad.
It's pretty fucking bad, considering everything else went along with it. How do we start talking about Hosmer again? But considering that no one was bidding for him allegedly, and that we gave him $25+ million, it's almost unforgivable. Other than Preller's made a lot of other really good moves. He's made some terrible moves and he's made some amazing moves. So I guess we take the good with the bad with Preller. Anyway, other picks. So Hassel's the high school outfielder from Independence in Tennessee. Justin Lang, big high school arm from I think it's Lano. I think they call it Lano High School.
I kept thinking Plano, but yeah, it's Lano.
It's Lano. That's what was thrown. I thought they said Plano too, and I looked it up and I was like, "What is that?" And if you were doing your Spanish pronunciation again, it would be Llano, which I guess the sister city of Amarillo or Amarillo. So he's huge. He's 6'4", listed at 220. Again, I'm not like sold on the 220. You're a big hoss if you're 220, but he's a big kid for sure. Throwing 100 miles an hour like everybody apparently does.
I know. I feel like literally every single pitcher taken in this draft, it's like, yeah, he touches 100.
You know what's bugging me is I'm watching scouting videos I'm scrolling through my Twitter feed and I follow a bunch of prospect analysts and scouts and, baseball teams and like the smaller places where kids go to train. And I just see kids consistently working on the skills to just throw harder. That seems it's like all they care
about. Those little batting cages like JP Longball and you don't know that radar is like accurate, and it's like, oh yeah, 100. Like,
I
oh,
saw-
one kid was like throwing 105. Like,
There's the
what?
kid throwing 105. Yeah, you're right. But also, I don't know why kids are just so obsessed with throwing the ball that fast. Once you get up to like 95, 96, that's enough. If you're training your arm to throw a lot harder than it should, short term, okay, but long term, you're probably doing a lot of damage to your arm. And I don't like 100's not what it used to be. So it's not 1992 where if you went out to the draft and you were throwing 99, you were the only kid doing it. Now everybody does it. So
Right.
why aren't you working on things like your off-speed pitch? Why don't you work on a really good changeup, which I think is the most valuable pitch a right-hander can have?
And
So-
I mean, what the scouts are saying about Lang, it's like they grade his fastball at like a 70, 80, and it typically sits like 94, 95. So he can gas
Okay.
it to 100, but he's not doing that.
So
The
if
velocity
you
on,
move to the
the velocity on his pitch kind of like dictates how it moves.
Okay.
Like when he's throwing it like 94, 95, it's moving. When he's throwing it, trying to gas it at 100, it's just going straight. And everyone can hit a straight 100-mile-an-hour fastball. It's in the major league.
We've
Like, you
seen
need to
it.
have it move. Yeah, I mean, with Lang, it was kind of a reach, is what people were saying, just because he doesn't really have any off-speed pitches. But the Padres minor league system has proven that they can teach people off-speed pitches.
Yeah, and I don't mind taking the guy with huge upside that's missing an off-speed pitch. Maybe he doesn't have a 3-pitch repertoire yet. He's 18 years old. That doesn't mean a lot to me because you get him in big league camp, you work with professional coaches, not your high school coach, that you can learn a cutter or you can learn a sinker or you can learn a changeup. That's kind of what that's the point of the minor leagues. And we're seeing Chris Paddock, who's in the majors, adding pitches already. And
yeah, I mean, overall, I like this pick. I think it's a good pick.
I think a lot of people like that pick. I don't think anyone had anything wrong with that pick. I think it's Owen Casey. I forgot how you say his name. Anyway, another Owen. We got an Owen to go with Owen Miller. By the way, Taxi Squad guy this year. Owen Miller. You ready?
He could
be. So I'll call him Casey for now. He was one of the youngest guys in the draft. So I was making fun of you because he's very white and very redheaded, and he kind of looks.
Sorry.
What?
Sorry.
What is that?
He's Canadian.
He was born in Canada, right? Yeah.
He went to high school in Canada. He is from Canada. He lives in Canada currently.
Well, what I said wasn't wrong. Why are you coming at me?
True.
He looked a little like Clint Frazier. Do you remember Clint Frazier? I think he went 2013.
On the Yankees.
Yeah, he was drafted by the Indians, traded to the Yankees. Kind of flaming out a little bit. He hasn't been given a chance to play every day. I wouldn't have minded if the Padres went and got him or give him a chance.
Him and La Jolla High Bradley Zimmer were on the Indians together.
Yeah, Bradley Zimmer, speaking of another guy that flamed out. And Kyle, his brother, who had a huge upside as a starting pitcher and just couldn't stay healthy, which is too bad.
They're both still in the league, both still on rosters.
What do they have to be right now? Like 27, 28?
No, they're younger. I think Bradley is 20, or Kyle maybe 28. I think Bradley's about 25, 26.
You look that up. Anyway, Casey. So Casey's from Canada, like you said. Big kid for 17. I think this is a purely projection pick from Preller here. So he's already 6'4", 190, and he looks more like it than the other guys. He looks thick and I don't know, really athletic, left-handed, turning 18 next month. So he's considered one of the youngest guys in the draft and has some of the highest exit velocity in the draft. So if you're one of those guys who loves batted ball exit velocity, I'm not such a launch angle guy in high school. I don't think you should be trying to hit for launch angle in high school. But the exit velo, 105 miles per hour, is going to be up there among anyone in baseball. And I know he's doing it with an aluminum bat. But actually, this could have been recorded at one of those prep showcases where they used a wood bat. That's possible. I don't know if they used a wood bat they probably did. They
would love to see what he could do with a puck, you know?
Is that a Canada joke?
Oh yeah.
Hilarious. So I like him. I think he's just a pure projection guy. He's going to take forever to develop, but he could turn into prospect like coin, I guess, to trade later. There's no rush on these guys. The same with Hassel. If the Padres decide they're winning in a couple of years and Hassel's, moving through the system slowly, but considered a top prospect, well, like I expect him to be, then, you trade him and go get someone else.
Yeah. I mean, we're kind of in like a win in the next 1 to 3 years. It's like, get these kids, get them on the top 100 list and then trade them for somebody.
They're kind of doing that with they started to do that last year. We were sad to see Xavier Edwards go, but we're like, that makes sense. There's no like Xavier Edwards doesn't have like a great place to play right now. I guess second base is still open, but a guy with kind of limited upside, which is Xavier Edwards, he's going to rely on his bat a ton. And if you're no power guy with I don't know, high speed, he's going to have like a 70 grade speed, but that's a lot of pressure on your bat to hit, 280, 290 or 300 to have a serious role on an everyday lineup. So I don't mind the risk of trading him. And I don't mind, trading some of these younger guys. It's just, again, with Preller, we haven't seen him be able to identify the major league talent. And I haven't seen the Padres take anyone from another team and turn them into someone good yet, like the Astros do. The Padres haven't done that ever, unless you're a pitcher. So I'm not counting old pitchers that came to Petco.
Adrian Gonzalez.
Well, Adrian Gonzalez had like a cup of coffee with the Rangers, so I wouldn't count that. I'm talking about a guy who has been in the league for a few years, who has always had some talent, but hasn't really fulfilled, everything that he could. And the Padres identified a weakness in his game and were like, hey, let's get that guy in here. I bet we can turn him into an all-star. The Padres have never done that.
Kevin Kuzminoff.
It's definitely worked in reverse for the Padres. Taking a guy who's already pretty good.
Reverse for the Padres all the time.
Either taking a guy who's already pretty good and he turns to shit real quickly, or taking a guy who's terrible here and then we trade him away, he turns into an all-star. One of those two seems to happen every year. So yeah. I'm expecting huge things out of Manuel Margot this year, by the way. I'm on record of that.
I mean, the whole Devil Rays outfield.
Renfroe. He's going to hit 40 home runs. Margot's going to hit 300. Before Margot got traded, you and I were both on the same page. Margot is going to be in his third year. Like, this is kind of the time they start to break out. I know he started slowly, but he always hit for a high average in the minors. He always had speed. He always played a pretty good defense. He slipped a little bit defensively, but I think he could still be a pretty good player.
Yeah.
It's going to be sad when he becomes, really good. The big news today was Cole Wilcox going in the third round. He went 80th overall, college pitcher from Georgia, righty, draft eligible sophomore. So there was the worry that he was not going to sign with a team for anything less than, high first round money, or he was just going to go back to school. He's like, pay me. I don't care where you take me. You're going to pay me a lot of money, or I can go back to Georgia. But some people think he's just as good as Emerson Hancock, who went top 5. I think he went 4 overall. So getting Cole Wilcox here, and it looks like they already have an agreement in place. These are just a rumor, but I don't think Preller would sign the kid if they didn't think they were going to sign him.
Or would he, just to save money?
No, I think they want him.
Not a Matt Bush type signing?
Don't you ever say that name on here. I think they really wanted him, and I think they saw an opportunity like they did with Hudson Head last year to take the guy in the third round and, save some money in the first couple of picks. Owen Casey might sign under slot. And they're going to give Cole Wilcox reportedly $3.2 million, which is about $2.5 million over slot for where he was selected in the draft.
Yeah, I mean, this is a huge pick. Everyone on Twitter seemed to love it. It's just
how could you not? He's a first round talent that everyone liked in like the 20 range, maybe overall.
It's just a matter of if we can sign him or not.
Yeah, and I think there's definitely a plan to. I don't think they would have signed the guy. They're following the same pattern they did in the years past. I don't think.
Yeah, the only thing that scares me is is it Preller trying to outsmart other GMs, like him thinking he can sign him, but he can't.
You never know. I guess we'll find out. When do they have to sign till? I think, is it August 1st is when they have to sign by?
Is it?
It's going to be interesting. So
he's not a Boris client, is he?
Isn't everybody?
I feel like everybody is. Yeah.
Potentially. Anyway, I loved that pick. Getting Cole Wilcox. We were talking about Cole Wilcox on day one, like when we were picking, I think 30, when we were our second pick, Cole Wilcox was in play. And we're like, why don't we take Cole Wilcox here at 34 overall? And they took Justin Lang, who I don't know, was a guy that I wasn't super excited about at the time, but you do a little more homework on the guy. And like, oh, he's got some upside here. He's a workhorse. He's a big kid. Not super projectable right now, which is what you like to see from the high schoolers, but already filled out, he's somebody. I like him. Cole Wilcox though, 80th overall. I didn't think he kept sliding. I was like, okay, the Padres aren't in play, I guess. And then they surprised me and took him 80th overall. I think I'm really happy with him. College pitcher who could potentially move quickly through the system. That's like a Cal Quantrill that we saw. Padres don't take a lot of college guys just in general at the top of the draft. So it's going to be nice to see a guy actually move quickly through the system for once.
Yeah, I mean, are you scared about giving a college arm who has more innings than a high school arm that kind of money, though?
No, not too much. He's a draft eligible sophomore. He's not like a 4-year starter where they pounded him into the ground every year. I think he's still, he can handle the workload. I think he's 6'5", 230 allegedly. He's not one of these guys that's like Luis Patino, who's 5'11" or 6 feet. I think they have him at 6 feet tall, who's a little slighter. This guy's a big hoss, like I think,
yeah.
And considering he's not, that 4-year starter, like I said, I think we're fine. I wouldn't worry about him in his arm yet.
Okay.
So that's my take on him. The other guy is Levi Thomas, who's a pitcher from Troy. And then they took Jagger Haynes, 5th round, 139 overall.
Great name.
Jagger, that's the best name of our picks, at least. I consider we should do a draft of the best names from this year's draft. That'd be up the top.
That's got to be up there, yeah.
Jagger Haynes. I like to say the whole thing. That's one of the things I like about a good name. You should have to say both the first and the last together. If they go together as well as Jagger Haynes, and you've really got something special.
I mean, Bobrovsky.
Who was Bobrovsky?
What was it? It was the Canadian Sports Center about the goalie in the NHL, and anytime it went to him, they would just yell Bobrovsky.
I don't know. I'm not spending too much time on Thomas and Haynes. Admittedly, maybe we can get Chris Welsh to jump into that, but these guys are more flyers, like we talked about. The first few.
These are complete guesses after you get out of the first two.
But hey, we got through the entire draft in just like 20 minutes. That's pretty impressive.
Should every year be a 5-year draft or 5-round draft?
Is this going to be our thing again, where we talk about why having a short draft isn't like a terrible thing? Because you and I are the only people I've ever heard say that.
I mean, it's not the worst.
I don't think it's the worst either. I know it deprives a lot of kids the chance to get drafted, but like the MLB draft is 40 fucking rounds every year. NFL doesn't come anywhere close. The NBA draft is 2 rounds. Like baseball's special. Like you get even 5 rounds is more than the NBA. So like, you go to junior college if you're a high school player, go to junior college and have a good season. You'll get drafted next year.
Well, and now with the new rule, even college sophomores can come out. Like you don't have to be there all 3 years,
Yeah, I don't feel so bad for you that you didn't get drafted, and you're going to have an opportunity to play later. And we're not. ESPN did this thing where they were running through all the guys that were drafted outside the top 5. I think that's such a bad argument to make, because if those guys were undrafted free agents, they would have been picked up by someone. Like there's no chance Mike Piazza is playing an independent ball and not get noticed. Like these guys would have been found. It's not like we're going to miss out on all this talent because the draft was short this year.
And
they're going to go to college.
On camera.
What's that?
And everything's on camera.
Oh, and today, it's not the 80s or the 90s anymore. Everyone with a phone is a scout now. So you're at a high school game, you're at a junior college game, you're going to get seen. You're going to be all these players who have talent. You're going to be fine. Don't worry about it. I really wouldn't worry about it. If I'm a good high school player and I didn't get drafted this year, maybe I'm like projected to be a 10, 15 round guy, I'm going to go to junior college and have a good couple seasons and get drafted next year or 2 years. Not that big a deal.
And then since the seniors didn't get to play, NCAA did the right thing and was like, hey, you guys can come back for another year.
I think we're still alone on that island. We'll have to. I'll ask around, but I think no one else is taking that. It's not a very popular stance. Less kids getting drafted.
I'm fine with it.
I know you are. That's why you're on the show. All right. I think that's going to do it for our draft coverage. We're not getting too deep, although that went longer than I thought we were going to go. We're going to get in Chris Welsh right here and call it a day. So here he is, Chris Welsh. Back with Chris Welsh from Prospect One and In This League podcast. Download wherever you listen to podcasts and follow him on Twitter at IsItTheWelsh. Chris, thanks for coming back on the show. It's been a while.
I know, Ryan. What's up, buddy? It's good to be back.
Did people keep asking if you're the Welsh? Where did that Twitter handle come from?
You know what it was? It was because my cohort In This League, Scott Bogman, one of my best friend in the world, he kind of came up with the moniker of the Welsh. So when we would do podcasts, Bogman doesn't like to just say, "Hey, Welsh," or Chris Welsh. He says the Welsh. So when we first started podcasting, people would be like, "It's the Welsh." Like everybody would have that same response. Like it was the guy from U2, like the Edge. Like, what are you talking about? So everybody would do that. So that's where the moniker, I was just like, yeah, it's the Welsh. So is it the Welsh? I couldn't put a question mark on Twitter, but
yeah,
that's kind of the the history behind it, I guess.
That's fun. It's like your alter ego, your fantasy sports alter ego. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. A little bit of the. You don't have to be formal. You can just call me Welsh.
So Welsh, yesterday was a busy day for you and for a lot of people who do podcasts and do write-ups about the draft. And the last couple of days have been pretty busy. But let's start with some day two stuff. Since we're recording this on Friday now, there was kind of a splash yesterday. Cole Wilcox, I think, was the big splash of the day. The right-handed pitcher from Georgia, who a lot of people had first-round grades on. Big kid, huge upside, huge signability concerns. And the Padres got him at 80, and it looks like or 80 overall. And it looks like they're going to be able to sign him for somewhere in the $3.2 million range, which is, a little over $2 million over slot. What were your thoughts on him pre-draft? Did you expect a slide like this? And what do you see him, kind of doing in San Diego?
Yeah, there's a lot to like about Cole Wilcox. High upper 90s, can even hit that 100 range on the fastball. It's got sink to it, so it can really, pound in. Mid 90s slider, change up. There's some command issues that had me worried, and there's what's nice about him is his delivery has like minimal arm action, but there's still this little bit of like violence with it. So where I'm building to is you take some command issues, maybe take some violence in there. You get a guy that can hit, high 90s. The team is going to work him out as a starting pitcher, but there was some relief risk. Any team, not just specifically the Padres for a minute, but any team was going to work out Cole Wilcox as a starter to start. But I thought that, maybe compared to, I feel like JT Ginn from Mississippi State and Cole Wilcox had a lot of similarities in, being drafted, not going back, and they were being in the same general range. I like a guy like JT Ginn a little bit more just because I think he's a future frontline starter. Cole Wilcox has it. It's just, will a team be willing to sit around, or will they even want to sit around and wait for him to establish himself as a big-time starter? So all that's to say that there's a little bit of tepidness coming into the draft about him, but I thought he was a top 35-ish prospect overall. And when he didn't go in the first round, the rumor literally after day one was, well, Cole Wilcox is going back to Georgia because he's not going to be able to sign. He's already telling people he's going back. So when the Padres took him at 80, I was shocked. And then even more shocked immediately after was the rumor that they had a deal done, a way, way over slot deal done. So, if there was a team I was going to feel better about Cole Wilcox going to, like, give me a couple teams at the top, the San Diego Padres are them. They're the ones that are going. They have been developing pitchers in a magnificent way for a while, but they also have such an amount of depth that I wonder, how long are they going to let him marinate? Would he be more prone to be a bullpen guy for a team like this? But either way, this is a team that is fantastic to have Cole Wilcox on. They're going to develop him. He's going to be with other really, really great pitchers. So I feel like his prospect prowess is it's even more on the uptick, and pretty incredible, 80 overall and $2 million over slot. Pretty incredible move that the Padres did.
Yeah, if it works out, the value there is, you're always trying to find value in the draft and with anything in life, I guess. And if you can get the value here and everything works out and he becomes a piece that contributes, then good on you, Back to day one for a bit. I thought at least that the consensus was going to be no surprises in the first few picks. And then Keston Kjerstad. I have such trouble saying that name.
Heston Kjerstad.
Oh man.
Yeah, it feels like Keston Hira. That's why his name.
That's
is
why I do it,
because it flips on both parts of his name. Yeah, Heston Kjerstad, Arkansas outfielder.
If they ever play on the same team, I'm screwed.
Yeah, well, it's like the Indians taking. They have Logan Allen, who they traded for from the Padres, and then they drafted a Logan Allen pitcher out of Florida International in this draft. So those two guys are there, and yeah, Baltimore, Milwaukee in about 3 years will be a nightmare with these two.
I saw Logan Allen, the older Logan Allen, thanking people on Twitter for getting drafted a second time by the Indians. I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah, he's getting hit up left and right.
So he flies up to 2 and screws everyone up. What was running through your mind when you saw him go second overall?
I mean, there's a Twitter picture for Prospect One, and in this league we have a Patreon, and I was doing a live stream like 3 hours of the draft I did for a lot of our Patreon members. And somebody took a screenshot, and I think I tweeted it out of my reaction to Heston Kjerstad, because I had heard the rumor that Baltimore was looking at other names besides Austin Martin. Most likely, I mean, to be honest, the actual rumor that was going around was that they would underslot it with either a Nick Gonzalez or a Zach Veen, and then Nick Bitsko was the guy that they wanted at 30. And obviously Bitsko didn't even make it there. And they took a little bit of flack because everyone was like, oh, you underslot it too, and you get a guy at 30 that you didn't need to overpay whatsoever in Westberg. But I was shocked that he just didn't seem like the guy. I had him, I want to say like 11. I had him behind Robert Hassel. I had him behind Garrett Mitchell. I had him behind Austin Hendricks as far as outfielders. No brainer behind Zach Veen. I thought Veen was in play there. I still think Austin Martin was the clear-cut number 2 in this draft. And I still would love to know the full knowledge behind why they did it, but Kjerstad is an analytical guy. The team, they're an analytical team. It's a good ballpark for him to hit in. I just don't know if the hit tool is going to be, it's going to play up enough, but the guy's got, 35 plus home run power. So they're, banking on a future corner outfielder, but it was a shock. And it obviously had reverberations kind of, down the line. I think the Marlins were locked into Max Meyer regardless, but then you saw the Royals just walk into Asa Lacy, and then the Blue Jays said, thank you very much. We'll take Austin Martin all day. So the top 5 was weird. It was crazy.
I love a good drama in my draft. I love watching the draft, especially this year because it was so short and picks were moving so quickly. I thought it was a really good TV show this year for a change. Usually it's kind of dragging.
Yeah, well, I mean, baseball, and they upped the production. I had talked with Jim Callis a couple weeks prior on the show to the draft, and he was kind of telling me about their uptick in production. Day 2 they were going to keep all the same guys and have the same breakdowns, and it was a good look. It was a good look to a weird situation.
Was Torkelson as easy a number 1 as it seems, and is he going to be? We're going to look back at this number 1 pick. It's like a Bryce Harper type number 1 pick where it was such an obvious call and he's going to be so good right away. And there was just never any doubt in anyone's mind that he's going to be as good.
In my eyes, I mean, at least in my eyes, maybe not every other person out there, but, Spencer is out. I'm out. I live in here in Arizona, and I got to see him here at ASU. And, it's a real deal, man. Plus power, anywhere from 70 to 80 grade. People put on the power. The hit tool is a plus. I think I've seen a lot of common comps, or like Andrew Vaughn out of Cal was given like a 65 comp on his hit. So you'd probably put a 60 on Spencer Torkelson. He gets beat a little bit down in the zone, at least I saw in college, but that's sometimes just being like over aggressive and wanting to dominate on the pitches you think you can hit. But the guy, he's going to take his walks. He's going to absolutely smash the ball. He can play defense. And then they shocked everybody. It was crazy that the first pick could actually be a shock, because it wasn't that Torkelson was taken, is that they announced him as a third baseman. And that was a bit surprising. He had played third base. I don't know if he had done it at ASU. It hadn't been a while, but the Tigers hadn't even really worked him out at third base, nor could they because of the pandemic. But they are going to try him out there. And worst case, they'll just move him back to first base. And the Tigers actually took his battery mate, Cage Workman, who was the third baseman at ASU. So worst case, he goes to first. Gage can play short or third base, and you got some future teammates to grow together. But yeah, Torque is going to be, I think it's going to be a no-brainer. We'll look back and we'll be like, oh, there's some weird stuff here. This guy went ahead of this guy, but Torque won't be in the conversation.
Now that the MLB draft is over, fantasy guys are kind of starting to lurk around and pick, check in on some of these players. I know you're a big fantasy guy, and my draft for first year player guys in my dynasty league is in August, and then I have another league where it's actually next year. What are some of your draft strategies when you're looking at some of these first year player guys? Do you prefer high school or college? Do you do bats over arms? Are there players taken from specific organizations that make you lean towards them just because you trust their front office so much? What are some of your draft strategies looking at these guys?
Well, I know there's a lot of people that like college, and I can get down with that. It just depends the type of keeper or dynasty or whatever that I'm running. I'm more likely to always focus on the best player. So you are going to see me take and rank higher some high school hitters and international players as well. I'll be a guy that was higher on Wander Franco than the majority of the industry on his first year, and I kind of keep Marco Luciano. Same thing. Marco Luciano is a top 6 prospect to me. So I'm not afraid to go youth, but I definitely am hitter over pitcher the majority of the time. I don't value catchers a crazy amount in fantasy. Pitchers, this year's pitching class is just so much better than last year's. There wasn't a player you could take in your first year player draft last year as a pitcher. You're not going to take George Kirby. This year, Max Meyer, Emerson Hancock, and Asa Lacy, they all belong in the first round of your first year player drafts. But I'm going to lean hitters. And as far as organizations go, there's a couple organizations I don't particularly love. Like Nick Gonzalez going to the Pirates was kind of okay. I don't love seeing that. I love Zach Veen in Colorado, but I don't necessarily love how they develop the guys. Tampa Bay Rays, that hurts. Any Rockies pitcher, Chris McMahon, who was Miami pitcher who was drafted there, he just plummeted in value. And then the uptick would be, it seemed like the Padres. Padres, Robert Hassel, you've got to look at. Robert Hassel we call it the Padres tax. James Anderson from RotoWire and we call it the Padres tax you have to pay for Padres prospects because they are valued a little bit higher nowadays just with how they develop their guys. So, yeah, hitting, I'm not afraid to go youth. Probably avoid pitching, especially in this class because there's so many deep pitchers you can get later. And don't draft catchers. That's how I roll.
What if that catcher's named Adley Rutschman?
Now he is the one exception to the rule. Adley is Joey Bart is close into there too, but Adley was the exception to the rule.
I was gonna say, not an Adley Rutschman guy.
No.
Right.
But the elite of the elite are always worth it. Pitching is the same thing. Yeah. I wouldn't take high end pitching in fantasy, the prices people pay, except when you look at the elite players like the Mackenzie Gores and the Jesus Luzardos. Those guys, they buck the trend. Their eliteness is a tier above the rest. So if you miss on those guys, you just wait because it's a large grouping of not necessarily similar players, but a lot of similar values.
That's fair. Since you mentioned Veen and Hassel, who did you have higher on your board?
I had Veen, definitely Veen. Hassel is, Hassel's going to be really fun to see what he does in San Diego, but Veen, bat speed, power, speed, big body. I love everything about the swing. He's just one of those players that you dream on. I think there were some Cody Bellinger type comps on there. And I legitimately thought, Veen to San Diego, when San Diego was up, I was like, well, here we go.
I did too. Yeah.
This is the dream. This is the thing we all thought was going to happen. But San Diego, they're also, if you look at the tea leaves here and you read them, are they going to cut a deal with Hassel? Could they have cut a deal with Veen? Maybe they get a discount with Hassel where they might have had to pay up for Veen, because I've heard his asking price was around 7.5, where I think the slot of where he went was 7.2. So you don't save anything with taking Veen, and they had looks like they had probably already cut this deal with Wilcox pre-draft. So it makes more sense now why they didn't take it. But I would have loved Veen there. But Hassel's going to be a super, super interesting prospect in San Diego. It's going to be fun to watch. If baseball ever opens up out here in Arizona, he would in about a month be out here for the AZL, which would have started up, and I would be seeing him. So hopefully I'm seeing him soon.
I hate it when math gets in the way of my draft. I'm just trying to watch guys get picked. I don't want to do the math on the signing bonuses. And you're missing out on Christmas this year. This is when all the guys head out to your backyard and play baseball for you. This has to suck for you right now.
It sucks. It really does suck. I'm telling you, extended spring training would have been happening right now. The Padres got some nice international guys that I could have been getting peaks on. I live just a stone's throw away from the Rangers and Royals, so we would have seen some of their international prospects, Maximo Acosta and Eric Pena. And then, like I said, within the next couple weeks would have been the AZL, where that's all rookie ball, and it's the high school draft guys, international signees, and sometimes the college guys take a stop in. So it's like what would have happened. This is a perfect example. A guy like Cole Wilcox wouldn't have probably gone to a low A level. He would have hung here at the complex level for a bit. So I would have gotten a chance to like chat it up with him, see him in the stands. He hangs out for a month. Maybe he throws a couple innings and then he goes off for the last month of the season. That would have kind of been my process right now. And it's all gone.
I'm sorry, man. It's too bad. Who are your guys in the draft? And your guys are in quotes. So like the guys that when you're drafting your first year player guys, you're always end up getting them somehow. You're targeting these guys. Maybe you're picking at 9, maybe you're picking at 19. Maybe that's a second round pick for you. Maybe it's a late first rounder. Who do you keep going after that you think you're going to be able to get kind of no matter where you're picking because you see something that maybe we don't see? I know those are probably two different questions, but.
And you're talking from this draft, the draft that just happened. So who I will be. Well, Ed Howard, 100%. Ed Howard will be the guy that I target in every single one. I mean, let's be blatant here, like Torkelson, Martin, Gonzalez, all those guys, sure. But Ed Howard, who the Cubs took, I desperately wanted the Arizona Diamondbacks to take. I think it's a 5-tool, bigger bat. I think there's easy 20/20 potential. I think the power could supersede the speed at some point, but he's a guy that could go 30-15 if everything keeps developing. A strong kid, good shortstop. He's just a guy that you build around. And that I thought was not necessarily even a steal. It was just an appropriate range. I absolutely love Ed Howard at that spot. So in the first round, that would be a guy I target. Austin Hendrick is another one of those just with the Reds, maybe after that. So if I'm in that like 8-9 spot, I'm looking at Ed Howard or Austin Hendrick for sure. A little bit later in the draft, ironically, I loved Bryce Jarvis. He was one of the reasons he went to the Arizona Diamondbacks. He was one of those guys where I was like, well, if you're sitting there looking at Hancock or Lacy, that's cool, but I'd almost rather maybe pass on them to take an Ed Howard, and then I'll take one of these really good college pitchers in the next round. And Bryce Jarvis, he's one of those guys. He's kind of one of, you could quote on mine. I'll give you just a couple others real quick. Mm-hmm. Isaiah Green, who went to the Mets, absolutely love him. The Mets had a ridiculous start to their draft. And I really like Carson Tucker, who is out here in Arizona at Mount Point, I think, high school. Cole Tucker, who plays for the Pittsburgh Pirates, his brother, and he got drafted by the Indians. And the Indians, they've got a really good system in developing their prospects. They have a ton of middle infielders, but Tucker is a high bat tool guy who's developing into more power, but he's just a plus, maybe plus hit with defense. He can run, and the power is the last thing to develop. So Carson Tucker is a dude that I'm going to be banking on like in the second round.
Were there any guys at the top of the draft that you're just kind of out on unless the value it becomes too great that you just have to take them? Guys that maybe you don't hate, but you don't see it from a fantasy perspective necessarily.
That's tough. So let's see, guy. I mean, like as I'm going through here, I mean, if you're talking like first round or second round that I'm in on, okay. I'm probably not going to own shares of Asa Lacy. And I know that's blasphemous for some people because, man, there was this like little movement on Twitter a couple weeks before draft where it's like if you said something negative about Asa Lacy, you would get just, feet to the coal. It was just one of these things. It's like, you can't say he can't strike out, this and that. Like, I didn't love Asa Lacy like everybody else did. He had all the momentum in the world. He's got a multitude of really good pitches. I think there's more command issues than other people do. And I'm not sure that he's this 10K per 9 insane strikeout guy like everybody else is, but I'm not going to like put a bet against it. Then he goes to the Royals. And I'm not saying the Royals are a bad organization. I love Bobby Witt. I love the pitching that they developed. I just don't know if, they don't necessarily push guys really, really early on. I don't know how well we can judge that they've developed pitching prospects because we really haven't seen all of them. And also, I just point out it's kind of the Royals. It's not a team that like I'm like, all right, great. This is a guy that's going to develop with the Boston Red Sox and going to move in. There's just some things that moved me a little bit away. So it's not so much about him. I'm just not going to own a lot of Asa Lacy. For me, it just doesn't make much sense. He costs such a huge high price. And I bet you he goes before Max Meyer, who's probably a better pitcher who went to the Marlins. So that's probably a good one I can give you. Asa Lacy, I'm probably out on drafts.
I'll take it. And of that group of pitchers that's kind of all bunched together in the top 10, who would have you wanted first if you were taking a pitcher at your spot?
It's tough. I'm still an Emerson Hancock guy. And there's a really interesting read out there. And, I really wish I remembered the article so I could tell people, but it's an article breaking down what the Mariners may start to do with Emerson Hancock because he throws a little bit from the side. So, this is a guy that you want high RPM on your fastball to make sure that it's getting like late movement. And he's got that, but he comes from the side a little bit. So the ball sinks and it flattens out a little bit. And that could be some of the reasons why he got hit. This is 3+ pitch guy with plus command. You want to talk about a player that can control the zone. It's him. So if you've got this fastball that you are going to rely on, that you command really well, but it's flattening out, it just gets hit more. So there's a conversation around what the Mariners may start to do to tinker and try to, just maybe slight little wrist alterations to get that fastball going again. So I think Hancock is going to be someone that's going to end up being a deal that I'll want to own shares of. If I was at the very top, I think Max Meyer is the perfect safety blanket to all of this. Callis told me best fastball and best slider in the draft. I already knew it was the best slider. I was a little surprised when he said best fastball. There's command. He's a bulldog. Who cares that he's 6 foot? He's a monster on the mound. So he's like the best safety net. So it would have been Max Meyer there. But I think Hancock is going to be kind of a he didn't come at a deal in the draft, but from a fantasy perspective, he's going to go, I think, behind Meyer and Lacy, and I think he'll end up being a deal.
One of my favorite guys in the draft, I think it was 2013. I've been doing fantasy drafts that long. First year player drafts. And it was Austin Meadows was a guy I was just obsessed with. And
yeah, man,
I went out and made sure I got him everywhere I could. And then this year I'm seeing a guy that reminds me a lot of early young Austin Meadows, and he's a college guy, and it's Garrett Mitchell, someone who is hit over power right now, but you can project the power, who's got a great speed, probably more speed than Austin Meadows, and defensively can play center field. Not a lot of love for Garrett Mitchell this year, and I'm worried it's just because of the diabetes thing. But in 2020, that doesn't bother me as much. I don't think it should bother people, and I want to know why it's bothering Major League Baseball teams. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me why Garrett Mitchell would fall so much when I think the tools are like an Austin Meadows who went in the top 10.
Yeah, it's a good point. It's interesting when you talk about like there's a fear factor that went into this draft where, GMs were more, and owners and managers and stuff are more worried than ever, about the looks that they had got on players and wanting to go safe. And yet you saw multiple high school guys go before Garrett Mitchell. I had some stuff that I had put in my notes. I wasn't necessarily in love with Garrett Mitchell. He is a big speed guy, but there is power there. His swing was a bit open to me, and I thought it lacked a little bit of drive. But you know what? That is something that you can fix. He's a toolsy dude. And the whole, he had diabetes and it drops. I think it's super overplayed. It's almost like the stock market to me where, teams start to, get a vibe of something like that. And then there's this fear index that starts to take over. I agree. I had Garrett Mitchell, just as far as my personal ranks, higher than he went. He was my 10th overall prospect. And everything I just said to you, by the way, I had Mitchell one spot above Hassel. So I am surprised because he's one of those guys that if you develop power with that speed, it's instantly 5-tool. Like he's already got the hit. He's already got the speed. If he hit-ish, contact is still a bit, I suppose, a little bit of an issue. But if you develop that and the power goes, this is, like you said, like Austin Meadows. It's like a 30-20 type of a player. And guess what? In a pretty good spot in Milwaukee. It's a pretty hitter-friendly space. Developing, we'll see, how they go with prospects. That's a little bit in question. They move away from them. But I think they can tinker with the swing a little bit, which I'd like to see. And it was a deal. It's a no-brainer that it was a deal in the draft.
Yeah. if you're in win now mode in your fantasy league, who are the guys that are going to move fast? Is Garrett Mitchell one of those guys that's going to move quickly? Some of the college pitchers, obviously, but if you're staying away from pitchers and you don't have Torkelson, who are the guys that are going to be in the big leagues within a year and a half?
Well, that's going to be it's probably going to be pitchers that are going to make that.
Yeah.
I think I've been saying this a little bit over the last couple of days. I actually think there's a chance Torque is up mid next year. And I know there's lots of people don't agree with me. And you know what? It probably doesn't happen. But for them to label him a third baseman, I think there's a legit shot that he could be up. But if you're saying who are some guys that could be up within a year and a half, you got to look at the pitchers. I think Max Meyer, Asa Lacy, and I would say Reed Detmers. I actually think Emerson Hancock is not in that. I would not put him there. I think those guys are a possibility to be up sooner rather than later. If I threw a couple out for you, maybe an Austin Wells. I don't know if he comes up that quick out of Arizona. He was a catcher, can play just all over the field. He's a bat first guy who probably isn't going to play catcher. The Yankees took him, and there's some flexibility now of where he could possibly play. But I'm not sure. I could go through and speculate on. It's really going to be all college names. Like, could Aaron Sabato, who the Twins took, if Nelson Cruz retired.
Do you like him a lot? Is he one of your guys?
Sabato, yeah, I do. I like Sabato more than most people because big power and bat speed. I mean, it's all bat. That's what I care about. He was first base only, but he went to a team with a DH spot, so why the hell not? So I think it's pretty few and far between the players that are going to come up in the next year and a half that aren't pitchers, but it's, Garrett Crochet, the pitchers I already named, Reed Detmers. Those are the ones that probably come up in the next year and a half. Torkelson, I imagine, is the first hitter. And then maybe a guy like a Austin Wells, maybe even a Justin Foscue, who the Rangers took. Those could be a few guys that could be up maybe the start of 2022.
Chris, we'll let you get out of here. Thank you so much for coming on, and hope you enjoyed the draft. And who's the MLB team you care about? Are you from Arizona?
Oh, Diamondbacks. Yeah, okay. I'm actually originally from California. I was born in the Bay Area, and then I lived in LA for a little stint. But I've lived in Arizona for 20 plus years. I'm definitely a Diamondbacks fan for sure.
Are you happy with their draft?
I was okay. They could have done better in my eyes. They went really heavy college pitching. Slade Ciccone. I love Bryce Jarvis. So they did fine. It's not particularly what I love, but I'm also, as a prospect person, I get thrown to labels to other teams. People think I'm a Padres fan because of how much I'm at the Padres facility, because they just are so ripe with prospects. And I ended up falling in love with so many of the guys. CJ Abrams, I absolutely love this kid. And I got to spend a lot of time around him in the AZL and everything like that, that people think I'm a Padres fan or a Dodgers fan because I go over to the facilities a lot. But I am a Diamondbacks fan, but I'm a true prospect fan. And every single team has probably got a couple prospects that I really, really dig and try to follow.
Makes sense. All right. We won't hold it against you that you're a Diamondback guy, but anyway.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's like I said, Padres. I'm a pseudo Padres fan.
Follow him at, is it the Welsh? You can imagine the question mark on Twitter, and be sure to check out inthisleague.com and In This League Pod on Twitter as well, and the Prospect One podcast. So Chris, thanks again. We'll try to check in with you possibly when we have some real baseball to talk about. Yeah,
I don't know when that'll be. We'll talk to you in 2022, I guess, then, right? But yeah, thanks for having me, man.
Don't say that.
I know.
All right. Thank you to Chris Welsh. Love having him on the show. It's been almost a year since we had him on. Wade and I have been doing the Padres show since last. I have it somewhere. Wade, was it June? Late June?
Has it been that long?
I think we did a show right after the draft last year. I think that was the first Padres.
We started quarantine last year, right?
We what?
We started quarantine last year, right?
Were we in quarantine last year?
Yeah, we've been in quarantine for a year, right?
I can't prove you wrong. No, I can't do that. See, if you told me it was a year, I'd believe you.
We haven't had baseball in a year. Feels like.
True. Who was I with the other? Oh, I was with our friend Matt, who actually we'll cut that. I was with Matt this week or last weekend, and he said that there has already been more time between when the NBA stopped to now than there was during a regular NBA offseason. We've had a full NBA offseason already.
There's no way that's true. Really?
I think that's true.
We've been quarantined for 3 months now? The NBA season's only 3 months?
The offseason is 3 months.
Oh, off season. Gotcha.
Yeah. The time between, the full off season has already passed. Is that right? That still might not be right. Now that I'm thinking about it, season ends in July, August, September. No, that could be
part. Cut that whole part.
That could be right though. Season ends in July, doesn't it? Doesn't the finals end in July? And then the season starts up again end of October.
I mean, they drag the playoffs out so long. It's like
I fucking hate it. The first round of the playoffs
games.
The first round is garbage. I hate it so much.
And like they don't need 3 days rest in between games.
That too. Yeah. By the time you get to the finals, they're having teams. It's just the TV schedule screwing everything up. I don't think the players want that, but they got. I would fix that. I'm sick of it too. I don't need it dragged on that long.
Agreed.
Glad we brought that up. So everyone, thank you for listening. Please follow the show's Twitter account. Wade, by the way, that's all getting left in because I don't want to cut anything. At Friar Farmhands on Twitter. If you enjoy the show, subscribe. We're on all your favorite platforms: iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, TuneIn, Spotify, and iHeart.
Where is this? I'm on page 25 right now. Your notes are such a mess right now.
I know they are. Sorry. I've got like 3 shows worth of notes in one show notes.
I'm so lost.
And only I know where shit is. It's after the image.
Okay, I found it.
Yeah, okay.
You can also find us. You can also find us at Believe.com and at Believe Podcasts. Please leave your comments, questions, concerns, and your rating of the show on all platforms.
You know, you probably could have that memorized by now too. It's really short.
I haven't been on in like 4 weeks.
It's the same thing. It's 1 sentence or 2 sentences.
Ryan, 4 weeks. I don't remember it.
That's not true. You were on the week before last.
I don't know. Check the tape.
You were. It was Heath Bell, and the one before that was you. So. You've been listening to Believe in Padres Prospects podcast on the Believe Podcast Network, San Diego's #1 sports podcast network. For Chris Welsh and Wade, I'm Ryan Hart. We'll talk to you all next week.
Have you brought any fruits or vegetables onto the planet?
2 weeks.
Excuse me?
2 weeks. 2 weeks.